Well, hello, you've made it to the end of day one. Congratulations. I'm proud of every single one of you. I've got one question, one very quick question for you all. Have I got your attention? Boo. That was good, right? No boos. Okay, maybe one or two at the back. All right, so I'm not going to introduce everybody because you can kind of see everybody up here. And I'm just kind of going to set out the stall here. We're not here to debate necessarily whether TV drives for highest attention in media, because I think we all know that already from some of the slides today. Instead, we're going to discuss what it means for media planning, budgets, price of high attention, and how to qualify that. So we're going to start off by looking at the impact on planning. So Tim, can you tell me a bit about the implications of the research you're doing at DPG and how's it guiding buyers?
Sure. So we've recently launched research with Amplified Intelligence on attention. You might know Carnes and Field with their famous attention research. And it was on BVOD versus YouTube on mobile devices. And the outcome was overall that the active attention, as the eyes on the screen, was 3 times higher for BVOD versus YouTube. So we're really happy with that kind of outcome. And that was in line with the international benchmarks. About, I think, 1 year ago, we did a comparable study with our publishing display assets and comparing it with Facebook and InStream. And the outcome was almost the same as the outcome from Amplified. So it's mainly demonstrating the strength of premium broadcast and publishing content related to the high engagement that people have towards that kind of content. And but the main usage, of course, is related to marketing, to be honest. So we're promoting the strength of our content and our context. And I think the next step for that is the integration of attention outcome into digital reporting, campaign reporting.
Great. Rachel, is attention already impacting how your clients spend at M6?
So there's 2 answers to that question. The first one is, our view of attention has always impacted the way we spend our clients' money. We're always recommending more the channels and formats and options that we believe are going to resonate with our audiences and grab their attention. The things that are going to amplify a creative message to get that attention. I think what we're seeing now is a growth of science backing up intuition. And what I would say is we're still on that journey. There isn't that agreed currency that allows us to make wholesale channel decisions around attention. You okay? But it's certainly, we love to see more best practice. So as the learnings come out, as we see these new findings, the opportunity for us to test them on our own clients is something that we embrace.
Sam already heard placements more impactful than creative. Can you tell us a bit about your research which shows that too?
Yeah, of course. So for a bit of context, we have a research program that's been going on for several years, which is called Thinking Inside the Box, and it allows us to ask some big questions for the industry to kind of help advance our knowledge. And actually, Thinking Inside the Box 6 dropped last week, and if you haven't read it, you should check it out. We put people in our MRI scanners, and it's very cool. But back to Thinking Inside the Box 5. So we partnered with Amplified Intelligence as well, led by Karen Nelson-Field. And what we wanted to do when we set out in the research was just to really create a kind of attention baseline for TV advertising in the UK, and we weren't expecting for this finding. There are 2 kind of really important points about the research that we did. One, we went into people's homes and we watched them view TV on the big screen in their household. We went into 250 homes. We analysed over 7,500 ad views. And the reason I'm calling that out is because when we think about attention, human data is really key, because it's the best way to measure it. And of course, we're going to talk about currencies and how we're going to use digital data points as proxies. But human data was really key. And secondly, what was my second point? I can't remember, but so yes, we looked at all of our data as coming out of our research, and we combined it with the amplified intelligence database as well. And the kind of the key headline of the research was we can now think about attention in this hierarchical structure when you're thinking about the ad placement, which is the platform, audience, creative, and branding. And over again, we saw that it is the performance of the platform that binds the performance of the other dimensions. And it doesn't mean that creative isn't very important, because creative is important in the context of optimizing towards those attention seconds. But having the knowledge of what is driving attention within your planning stages, being platform and audience as well, has been really key.
Okay, and JP, you're seeing exactly the same. I know Nicholas came on stage earlier and reported the same thing. So is this generally seen across the board? So everybody...
Yeah, so there's the key point that the platform really matters.
Yeah.
We've done a lot of studies. Everyone's doing lots of studies in this space. It's a very interesting area because it's been enabled by lots of advances in technology. It's a lot cheaper to measure this stuff than it was 10 years ago or further. But really, through all these different studies, you look at lots of different kind of contexts and different audience types and different platforms. Essentially, it's all really described by physiology and psychology. So very much around the experience of the platform, that you give more attention on within the feed to a platform that you're scrolling slowly. If you're reading stuff, then you're scrolling more slowly. People tend to process textual information relatively slowly and visual information relatively quickly. So, which most of you, I imagine, will probably recognise in the way you might use Twitter or Instagram or those kind of things. Likewise, in TV, if it's a sort of screen-based, streamed environment, then generally there's only one thing to look at. And so therefore you are generally sort of relatively binary. You're either paying attention or not paying attention. And the charts that Nicholas was showing showed that there's a proportion of people who aren't paying much attention. They're looking at their phone, doing something else. But those who are paying attention, generally paying attention for the vast majority of the ad. And it's very much about understanding those distributions of attention. That's the kind of the key point. So the actual kind of quantity, the average of the seconds, that's useful. That's a good starting point. And that definitely illustrates that that there's a big difference there. But actually, it's in the distribution and the proportion of impacts to deliver what you need. That's the thing that's really sort of impacting my thinking about planning.
Yeah, and we'll get on to modelling this later, because one thing I keep thinking is how complicated it becomes quite quickly. JP, is attention already influencing spend of your clients?
But very much. So generally, when and it can do it lots of different places. I won't go into all the complexities, but at the channel level, understanding that, say, a big part of our kind of philosophy here is this notion of, Nicholas mentioned it, this attention requirement calculator. So essentially, when you start looking at, say, the delivery of attention across lots of different ads and different channels and these kind of things, and the uplift in terms of middle availability or purchase intent, that kind of big triangulated kind of model illustrates that, so brands that already have high market share, high middle availability, they don't need a huge amount of attention to make that difference. It's kind of more of a reminder. If you're a startup brand, it's actually a great study done by Media Science 3 or 4 years ago. It illustrates that the less salient brands, the attention that they get has a smaller impact on their on the awareness. It starts slow, it grows more slow, but it keeps growing. Whereas for the more salient brands, it starts higher, it grows quickly, but actually it then starts to peak and actually starts to decline. People get bored. So there are different rules, there are different objectives, there are different dependencies that exist for different brands. And so that's what we try to kind of encapsulate and say, that sort of salient brand looking to speak to, drive frequency with current customers for a single product, that needs a lower level of attention. If you're a startup brand with something really complicated like genetic testing, it's more persuasion and you're looking to build those things up. So duration is just one aspect, and we're looking to kind of build more pieces of that, but very aware that we don't want to overcomplicate things, and hopefully generally it can feel intuitively right, that we sort of see it in our own behaviours, and then you can start to plan around that.
Great. Now, first, condolences about Australia.
Well, I'm English.
Oh, right, well, there we go. I should have done my background research.
I just happen to live in Australia.
Oh, right. How is it?
It's a lot warmer than it is here.
Have we got your attention? I know you were on a flight the other day. Is it?
My time zone now is I think 4:30 in the morning, so I'm just about to hit my peak and wake up.
I was going to say.
So we'll be fine for that.
You're just getting home after a night out, aren't you?
Yeah, just about ready to start my day. My boss is at the back, so I've got my emails ready to go.
So it's all feeling a little bit cosy in this little sofa friends setting, so I hope none of you don't fall asleep on the timeline. Anyway, tell me about how you're a bit further down the line with amplified intelligence. And I mean, actually on a call the other day, you told me that we shouldn't be getting too caught up with attention. So tell me what your opinion is about.
We've been lucky that we ran a couple of studies with amplified intelligence, and look, we're really blessed in the fact that, and I think hopefully some people saw my boss Mark Frayne talk earlier, when you put the customer first or it's people first, you then build platforms around good experiences and watchability. So naturally, when you've got paid for customers that are actively paying with lower ad loads, they have higher retention. But attention needs to be part of the media mix. So it's not the only be all and end all. So when I say I don't want to get caught up with attention, it shouldn't be just attention. It should be part of a broader media plan and the way you do it. Some of the findings we found, some were super obvious. You know, when you start to get beyond 7 ads within an ad break, you start to lose attention. So one of the things that we look at from a broadcaster, from a linear perspective, is we run less ad loads than free-to-air. And I'm not here to beat up social. It's not what this is about. But it just then justified the proof point. With a paid TV platform, you need to treat the customer experience different. So less ad loads, less clutter. We found that BVOD on mobile was twice as high versus linear. Again, BVOD, it's obvious. It's a one-to-one connection with your mobile device. So obviously you've got a lot more active attention. And then one of the other things, and again, obvious, sport fan base. So KO is a sport platform, sport streaming platform. That had higher levels of intention and engagement because, again, it's about passionate audience connecting with content, and then the ads worked harder. So there were just some of the findings, but I do think it's super important that we remember attention is part of it. You know, when you start to add context, think about addressability. So again, having highly engaged platforms that have high levels of attention, with high relevance within the ads, with high levels of targeting that are relevant to that customer profile. Again, all the three of those things combined deliver better business outcomes for clients. So for me, it's great to have a proof point. It's great that it's getting integrated into agencies' planning tools, because naturally we'll start sitting higher up in that planning process, which naturally means we'll get more money. Sorry, I work in sales. I'm here to drive revenue outcomes at the end of the day. But if it means we get higher up, we get a bigger portion. But it can't just be the one all be all and end all. It needs to be part of how you plan holistically across your campaign and how you use that creative message with the ability to have addressability. So it's great, but it shouldn't be the only thing we get fixated on for the next year, 2 years, because we'll lose sight of some of the other things that are important.
Great. I'd love to take some audience questions throughout. Has anybody got any questions at this current point, particularly about media planning and the effect of attention? No? Well, I've got loads more, so get your thinking caps on. So Tim, I want to now talk about qualifying attention. Talk to me a little bit about, can you have high attention for the wrong reasons? And also about how you then model that against, say, passive attention. Mm-hmm. And is high attention for whatever the bad reason is. Yeah. Sounds a bit dramatic, doesn't it? Bad reasons. Is that still better than passive attention? What have you found?
Well, I think we've learned a lot on attention. We've seen some great results today on attention too, but there is still a lot to learn. We think of attention as a focus on something and not on something else, and then we process it, and then we might take actions upon it, but that's not always true. In scientific research, there is something like inattentional blindness, so you're looking at something, but you're not seeing everything. It's like normal mental distortion, something like that. Meaning that, yeah, sometimes you look at something and there's not full attention. So another learning from scientific research is that there are a lot of things influencing attention. There's the context, there is your intentions, there is all your senses. What you hear, for example, is really important. So there's a lot to learn, and probably there will be some bad attention. But I think the only answer to your question is we should relate attention to the outcome. The outcome for the brand, for the advertiser, ad recall, brand lifts, and then we can start to understand the distribution of attention and the impact on the brand.
Yeah, JP, what do you see? Would you?
Well, yeah,
I know we're here to talk about TV, right? But would you tell clients not to go on Twitter because it's high attention, but
That's a different set of matters that I'll leave to my esteemed colleagues. But there are many ways in which one can deliver high levels of attention that are not aligned with the brand's needs. Certain kind of forced exposures. These kind of things. There's maybe some roles for these kind of things, but it's very much understanding that just because something gets 10 seconds of active attention or high focus attention doesn't necessarily mean it's. I think one needs to understand, it comes back to the human experience, the physiology, the psychology, the motivations, why someone's consuming that channel, and that'll allow you to understand these things. So therefore, a forced view of something versus a completely opt-in thing, and the opt-in thing's got slightly less attention, you still may want to go with that. There's simply those kind of parameters, and actually we have a whole kind of attention taxonomy that includes a lot of those different kind of criteria. And very much we want to avoid a world where people are sort of gaming the system for attention. As we sort of saw with elements of viewability, there's ways of aligning attention to say be more focused on the consumer experience. And we've heard a lot today about media platforms saying that the consumer comes first. It's the consumer experience. They understand that if they start annoying consumers, then they're going to lose them, especially in a kind of the SA-VOD world, from learning that new acronym. In that kind of environment, when there's all that more choice, then they'll lose people, and likewise advertisers have always understood that, and so we'll need to kind of have the kind of taxonomy and the understanding of the various kind of tactics at play, some of which are very positive and create value for all, and others which can be potentially quite destructive.
All right. So Sam, jump in.
That raises one of the potential challenges, or one of the risks of getting carried away with attention as a metric, because we know that it's important, but it's not the only thing. And what we're really trying to do is take those steps towards ad recall and eventually whatever business outcome you want. And sometimes, as we know, the sort of sensationalist contexts aren't necessarily going to enhance your message, aren't going to enhance comprehension of what you're trying to do. So I guess we have to, as we always do as planners, take on board what attention will give us as part of a broader mix of media inputs.
Do you see high attention naturally, just if we keep optimizing towards it, great. Is that just going to drive up prices?
That's a really interesting question, because I think your point about not everyone needs those high attention environments creates a sort of nuanced market where you choose your level of attention depending on what you're trying to get out of it, which I think could sound quite healthy. I'm quite enthused by it coming in as a measure, because it allows us to reward what we should as advertising be rewarding, which is good quality content to put our brand's messages alongside. So should we pay more for content that's been invested in highly? Absolutely, yeah.
Sam, should we pay more for?
Glad you said yes.
Mm-hmm. Should we pay more for active attention?
It is a really big question. I think, maybe the question is, why would advertisers pay more for attention? And I think there's a couple of things that come to mind as we start to unpick that is do we right now have enough data points to understand what is impacting attention across all media touch points? And I think, no, we don't, not yet. And I think, JP, you touched on kind of attention being so born out of physiology and psychology that there are so many different, neural networks that we don't yet understand, and how the kind of what we started to unpick in our research was that different demographics, different ages pay different levels of attention when consuming exactly the same pieces of content in exactly the same context. And so I think there's kind of, depending on who you are and what category you're advertising in and where your KPI is on the, within the funnel, it's really difficult to kind of start to unpick all of that. And then what does greater attention actually mean? Is greater attention driving better outcomes for brands? And then what type of attention is driving those outcomes based on where your KPI is? Again, kind of going back to our research, I'll stop plugging it in a minute. But we definitely saw that greater levels of attention were related to a greater propensity to choose a brand at a point of purchase through STAS. But we need to know more, because that was just one KPI. I think attention right now is a really robust tool to use within optimizing your plan. It's a great planning tool. It goes further than viewability being that opportunity to see, whereas attention actually describes what happened and how you engaged when you saw it. There's different ways of measuring attention as well. We used eye tracking, eyes on screen, eyes off screen, but we didn't look at audible. We didn't look at, in that piece of research, brain signals, and so it's such a complex thing. I think what we will all agree on is, TV does drive greater outcomes, and I think the price that we price addressable TV at is inclusive of the value that we're bringing. But we have to look at business outcomes as a kind of key component of answering that question.
I mean, I think the market will define the price ultimately. So it'll be, we're getting a better understanding of the supply of attention that the different channels deliver, and then as brands understand their requirements more, then those things start to match up. Say, the nightmare scenario is that every brand demands 25 seconds of attention, won't pay a cent for anything that delivers less than that, and will only pay that. That will then incentivize media platforms to enforce views and that kind of thing, and there's lots of value in those smaller packets of attention. But yeah, it's just matching up correctly based on your understanding of what the brand's looking to achieve, audience insights, the context and culture pieces. There's all sorts of different factors, some of which we understand well, some of which we're just scratching the surface on.
Yeah. Guessing you'd like high attention to be costed up?
Oh, look, I'd love it to be costed up, but no. Do I see that actually turning into reality, knowing how many years I've negotiated with agencies? No. In all fairness, but do I see it as a proof point to stop like a discount position that has become sometimes the norm? Yes. It gives another proof point and it's great that there's research there, and again, Amplified Intelligence has done a lot of work on it, but at least it now has a proof point to then have a point of view that when you are asked, we just want it cheaper, and especially now that, we are going to hit some sort of economic turmoil, we are going to see people want to cut marketing budgets, there is going to be the instant reactions go, we just want to buy it cheaper.
Yeah, surely there's worry about it, just add inflation.
Yeah,
inflation.
Exactly. So for now, the great thing now is we have a point to say, well, actually no, because there's value in that current CPM because I have high attention within premium content environments, with low clutter, greater cut through, and I want to work with your client to drive business outcomes. It then makes it really difficult. Someone goes, but I just want to buy it cheaper. Yeah. So do I think they're going to pay more? No. But do I see it as a proof point that we'll see investment go up in our platforms? Yes. And do I see it as the ability to actually then have something to volley back when someone says, I want to buy it cheaper? Yes.
Tim, attention, just inflationary pressure on top of inflation?
We've seen a lot of research on attention on a global touchpoint level, and from some years ago even, Ambiguity launched a paper, I think some years ago, with some general figures, and I think in the end it didn't influence pricing for TV or BVOD. It might reinforce the overall image of the strength and the power of TV and BVOD, but nothing more than that. I think it might happen in the near future, but I think two things are really important. The first thing is the measurement. You should then have a granular attention measurement that can be linked towards a granular TV pricing to really check if prime time is really high attention and high value. And then the second thing is an agreement on what is attention and what is the definition of attention. Is it then the 30 seconds, the 1 minute or more? And that's even harder, I think, to do than the measurement. So we're not there yet, but it might happen in the future.
Okay, I want a one-word answer out of all of you on will attention be used as a currency? So I'll start with you. Yes or no?
I hate one-word answers, but no.
I would also go with no.
Hard no.
Agree, no.
It's not going to be a one-word answer. No, but it's a metric that will be used.
All right, any yeses? Any yeses in the crowd? There's loads of hands up. Okay, so I think it's a resounding no. Let's dig into that a little bit. Rachel, can you tell me a little bit about why you said no?
Because it is not the full picture. So to trade purely on something that makes up a decision is unlikely to drive your overall decisions. It's also, as you say, very complex and difficult to calculate. So would we trade on something that has so many different nuances to it? It seems unlikely.
But Nev, you told me yesterday in a call that it could be.
I think it could be. As I said, look, you can sit here with a sales hat on and go, yes, it's got to be a currency. The numbers look great. Logistically, for me, it's a metric. It's exactly almost like viewability. When viewability came around, there was fear-mongering, scares. Everyone thought the price point was going to come down and it was going to get bastardized, and then everyone had to re-engineer their sites. All it meant was better content that was better viewable, and better ad placements got more of the spend. So will attention be another metric? Like, is your ad viewable, as it was said? Does it have high attention? And then there's a currency off the back of that? Yes, but are you going to just buy it based on that? I don't see it happening.
And I think the fact that viewability isn't a traded currency,
it's a hygiene factor.
It shows that attention is probably not going to go that way either.
And then what? We're going to create another currency to then try and integrate into everyone's planning tools, buying tools. We've done enough so far, I think. So I do think it being another hygiene factor that sits on a report, whether it's pre or post, and then says, was the attention high? Yes, I do see that, but I can't see just can't see it being traded as I want to buy a CPM based on X amount of attention.
But that's even what you said there about it being a post kind of reporting metric. Even that's complicated, isn't it? Again, if you're thinking about, you really need to monitor the human to understand kind of the levels of attention, unless you're going into proxy digital data points and building AI models to then net back to.
I think it could be
what the human's doing.
I think it could be. I think at the end of the day, if there's value, if publishers sees value in the data and media agencies value in the proof point, why would we not look at it? I think it's something that creates a point of difference in market. And I personally, again, we're super proud of our network. We're super proud of the placements we've got. Why would we not want to invest in, shouting from the rooftops, your ads were highly engaged, there was high levels of intention, and then ultimately link that back to brand outcomes and business outcomes? I think that's a good thing. Again, I think it's, is it next week? No. But I think it's a journey we should be on.
But there are some countries that are really trading or programmatically buying on attention, I think. Some agencies are doing it for clients, no?
Well, we have attention marketplaces and there's attention custom bidding and these kind of things. So pricing is informed by attention, but you're not buying the attention. So I can't see a world where we'd buy 1 billion seconds of attention for a client. It may be the case, what it will be is that knowing that the percentage chance that this impact will deliver the attention I need, that might change my modifier to bid a little more or a little less for it. So it makes sense, but it's not the currency. All the points that you guys made, say it's subjective in terms of brands have different requirements there that we're not all agreed on. It's 12.3 seconds is attentive and or not attentive. They've all got different thresholds. It's hard to measure in the sense of it's kind of panel based to do the actual kind of eye tracking, or we can go census with some of the kind of proxy metrics, but that's still there's lots to work out, which adds the complexity. It's not fungible in that sense that 1 million people seeing something for 10 seconds is not the same value as 10 million people seeing something for a second. Actually, the relative value could be both ways for different clients looking for different things. So there's a long list of reasons why it wouldn't be the currency which you trade, but a lot of reasons why it's useful to inform better buying decisions.
For something which seems so obvious to track, which is attention, it can very quickly seem like it becomes very overcomplicated. And surely is it just adding another data point to, this is an open question, is it, because I didn't write it on the list, so anyone who wants to go for it, is it just adding overcomplication to the jobs of advertisers and and adding another thing for agencies to do, more econometricians needed. Do we even have the talent? Is it just overcomplicated for something which should be so simple? Sam, do you want to take that one?
It is making things more complicated, but it doesn't mean we shouldn't do it, because I think it is a really valid metric. As I say, it goes further than viewability, and it does inform a lot of quality. If we're looking at platforms, for example, it enriches the kind of the platform hierarchy based on value, not price. So yes, it's complicated, but yes, we should still do it and pay attention to it.
Are you getting a lot of econometricians at M6 to model attention data?
Not as yet, but I think there's the debate on incorporating attention is really interesting, because you look at some of the studies and you see, this many seconds of attention. It confronts you with the truth that you always knew, but you so easily forget when you're in our industry, that people do not necessarily pay lots of attention to your advertising. I'm sorry if this is the first time that you are hearing that statement, but you really, really should take that into account. And so if we are faced with this 90-second extravaganza that we have created will actually result in 13 seconds of attention, I think that's sobering and I think that's important. So it's worth it just for that reason.
It's a huge point, that, and so the way people consume ads is not the way that we watch them in some Soho screening theatre.
Absolutely.
The attention metrics give us that distribution of some people pay no attention, some people pay small amount of attention, this amount of person pays some attention, designed for the experience. So what we see with the elasticity is actually a lot of that distribution is defined by the platform. There's things you can do in terms of better placement, better context, the creative within those areas. So there's significant levers to pull, but it allows us to have a more empathetic, quantified set of decisions related to these different aspects. So it's not just that kind of macro metric. You can start to kind of optimise there. And the job of the agency is to manage that complexity so that the benefit is clear to clients, and they can let us worry about the detail and the complexities there, but there is a provable uplift in performance.
We've got so cosy up on stage in this little panel. I've got some time for questions. One from Lindsay, I can see there. One from Justin coming up afterwards. Please, could you just let us know your name and where you come from, and who you're directing your question at?
Hi there. Sorry, Lindsay Clay from ThinkBox again. This has been a really interesting debate. I just thought I might summarise it and point it in a slightly different direction, which is attention seems to be another proof point of what extraordinary value TV is. Great. Are advertisers willing to pay any more for that? Doesn't seem there's much appetite for that. But the other way of looking at this is there's a whole load of media which are extraordinarily overpriced on attention metrics. So maybe what you ought to be doing is looking at those and thinking that your clients are paying far too much money for those particular media. So I wonder if you wanted to respond to that.
Anyone in particular?
Well, you can see on the chart that Lumen, T-Vision and Ubiquity presented, but we start with IAB formats desktop, Instagram story mobile, Facebook in-feed video mobile, etc.
I think they should divert the budgets from those into TV.
Well, that might be a good strategy.
There's another question down at the front from Justin.
Right, firstly, the buyers on the panel didn't answer that question. JP, can you please...
Okay, I'll give it a go.
There we go, for Christ's sake. Yeah.
It depends on your requirements. So if you've got that kind of higher level requirement, and say the charts, Nicholas showed this is like a different version of the chart, the one I normally show, but kind of 10 seconds plus. If you've got some kind of level of complexity to your message, then there's a really strong argument for TV. And actually, but we knew that anyway. You're not going to make complex arguments with banner ads. The banner ads are useful as in the point of purchase, and if you're in a supermarket website to kind of there's 10p off the baked beans or something, it's kind of useful. When you've got those low requirements, then it's a bit different. So the point is entirely valid, but not necessarily in every case.
My question's a bit more direct, is that Nev, right? You've paid for an attention study to prove, as you put it, what you already know, but you're not going to get paid more for it. Do you recommend broadcasters go out individually and do what you did? Did you get enough ROI from proving the things that you already knew with some data points? Or is it sort of, did you get enough from it, I guess, from your position?
Yeah.
No, please go ahead.
Was it Nev or was it?
Both the guys with white shoes can answer this one. Yeah.
One, do I think, I can't believe we're going to use the word collaboration. Do I think we should work together more on those things? Yes. Do we? No, because I think everyone wants their USP and their secret weapon. For us, it was worth it, because I think no matter what the cost was, it gives me or the team finally the chance to say what we knew was obvious has actually been proven by an independent platform. And will it drive us greater value in the long run? Yeah, I believe it will. Because I think if they work with the agencies and naturally, we'll get more of the media share, because they've actually got someone else telling them this medium works super effective for you, so we invest more with them.
So you recommend other broadcasters do the same thing?
I think they should, but my gut feel is our stats will look better than theirs. So I think they'll look good, but I think we'll look even better.
In your market, I mean globally.
Globally do it, yeah.
But couldn't you collaborate? Surely that's in the interest of the channel.
We did collaborate with all the broadcasters through the study in Belgium. Because of the cost in a small country like ours, it's the only way to go. So it's doable.
Yeah. Look, I think maybe Australia's a bit more competitive, where everyone they don't like sharing as much. But yeah, like if there was an opportunity, yes. But do I believe would happen? I don't see it in Australia.
I know there's a couple more questions in the audience. I can see Steve on the side, so we are going to get kicked off now. But let's continue.
There's one.
All right. Well, we have time.
Simon Thomas, Group M. So, given the attention span of a goldfish is 8 seconds, according to Microsoft, and Karen Nelson Field has said it takes 3 seconds for something to actually have some benefit from attention, and referencing Rachel's wonderful point, are we going to see the death of 30-second ads?
No. So, my view on that. So, when you're talking about seconds, it's seconds of active attention in that context. So it's not necessarily seconds of ad. So to get 3 seconds of active attention, you may have to watch 6, 7, 8 seconds of an ad. And I think the second threshold is when the brain starts to generate memory structures, and that just increases as those active attention seconds increases as well. So the more active attention you have in terms of number of seconds, just the benefit increases. And the nice thing about TV is that, particularly OTT, when you're viewing an ad, your level of attention percent kind of stays constant. So the longer the ad, the more attention seconds you're going to get, and I just think that's only a good thing to build those memory structures.
So more 90-second then.
No, let's stick with the 30s, but let's not go down to 15s and 10s and 5s and be silly.
Great, thanks a lot. And thank you to our panel, and thank you for all being here today. And I'm sure Steve will say a few words.